Well, yesterday we talked about a new Justice Department directive that plans to track and prosecute domestic terrorists, which is really not a thing. The Constitution does not allow for domestic terrorism because that gives the power for the government to define any dissenters as terrorists. Well, the Trump department is saying, yeah, we want to do that. Here is some of the ways that they are defining domestic terrorist beliefs. I showed you the document this came from, and I just listed opposition to immigration enforcement, extreme views in favor of mass migration. All of these are protected beliefs. Sure, they're leftist, but you're allowed to think those things, especially the last one, support for overthrowing the U.S. government. That's in the Declaration of Independence. So why is the Trump administration broadening their reach now and defining protected beliefs as terrorist beliefs? Here's the document that this came from. It was a response to President Trump's memorandum in September called Countering Domestic Terrorism and Organized Political Violence. Not surprisingly, it was in the wake of the Charlie Kirk assassination that the Trump administration decided to use it to expand their own powers and define domestic terrorism. Joining us to discuss is Ken Klippenstein from Clip News. This story broke and was published on their site, and the document was an exclusive download. So thank you so much for joining us. Fantastic reporting. Can you even believe, I mean, I guess I don't want you to reveal your sources, but it's hard to believe this is real because it feels so Orwellian when you read it. So tell us a little bit about the origin of this document and whatever sources you'd like to reveal.
Yeah, so I think how crazy it sounds on its face is part of the reason it's got so little attention in the mainstream press. I think only Reuters has written about it and The Guardian, a British publication. But I put the document right there. People can go and read it for themselves. The Justice Department actually confirmed its authenticity just yesterday. So there's no question that this is happening. To give you a sort of crash course in what this all means, it's basically creating, in essence, a bounty system for reporting on fellow Americans who are suspected of harboring those views and being motivated by those views in furtherance of terrorism. And so if you look at page 2 of that document you put up on the screen a moment ago, it describes the FBI establishing a fund to reward tipsters with that they can send to the FBI about people that they suspect advancing these views. And my point here, if you go down that list, a lot of that is left wing. But some of it also isn't necessarily political, like not having traditional views of family. I mean, that could be bachelors, that could be, right, non-Christian. I'm Christian personally, but non-Christianity. Yeah. There are people of different, there are Jewish people, there are all kinds of different religious views that don't necessarily mean that you're a leftist. And so what I would try to stress here is that, maybe if the focus seems left now, it's being defined very broadly, and the next administration that comes in might have a different view and be able to define these things differently. So I think it's really important that people push back just in principle.
Well, Ken, great job on this. And you brought up the bounty system here, which as soon as you said that, it just reminded me of the reporting that we've done here and talked about the DIA app in Ukraine, which was really sort of the USAID rollout of the tracking app that they would use in Ukraine to rat on your neighbor. Like, you're basically able to go right inside the digital, boom, oh, my neighbor is, might have a Russian flag in his living room, or might be doing something that I want the SBU to come and check on. Like, I know that sounds like, oh, that's a bridge too far. That would never happen in the United States. But then here you go revealing these documents. So I don't see it too far away now that we have all this Palantir involvement and everything else that's coming under the digital surveillance in the United States.
Yeah, the effect that this is going to immediately have. I'm working on a story right now. There was a very prestigious law firm in Washington called Covington and Burling. They put out an advisory to their clients, big corporate clients, saying that they anticipate that the effect of this memo that I reported on Saturday is going to be to have a chilling effect on speech. And this is a elite corporate law firm which has no activist interest in advancing one view or another. They're just telling their clients this is going to be the effect, conduct yourselves accordingly. And that's what's really negative. I mean, even short of arrests and all the things that the FBI can do through the joint terrorism task forces that they have in every state across the country after 9/11, completely short of that, the effect we're already seeing, according to that law firm and just common sense, if you read the directive, is it's going to scare people and make them not want to express things. And that is a big loss, because that is what this country is supposed to be all about, is it doesn't matter what your views are. As long as you're not hurting anybody, you can express them. And unfortunately, we're already seeing it have that effect. And that's what the intended effect is.
That's a great point.
Well,
the threat of it.
Right. Yeah, it's self-censorship, which is also a violation of our First Amendment. If you are thinking that you'd like to get some holiday skincare for Christmas or for yourself, then look no further than Genucel. Genucel has a Christmas special. You can save over 70% off their amazing skincare products. It includes their jawline treatment to tighten, tone, and contour your neck and jawline. So say goodbye to that turkey neck and sagging jawline and get compliments around the dinner table. When you order today, Genucel will include their immediate effects for results you can see in minutes, not hours, plus their top-selling deep firming vitamin C serum included in their essentials package. So treat yourself this holiday to 10 years off your appearance. Everyone will notice the difference. 100% guarantee back or your money back, and 100% guarantee or your money back. That is the Genucel promise. So let them know that we sent you. Go to Genucel.com/redacted. You'll get an extra 10% off plus free shipping if you use our code redacted at checkout. Again, that's Genucel.com/redacted. One more time, Genucel.com/redacted. This is something I had worried about yesterday because the Supreme Court has many times ruled that advocating for the abolition of the U.S. government or a major systematic change is protected speech as long as you are not inciting violence or lawless action. And so I would have to think that the Supreme Court would throw this document out and say the Department of Justice cannot do this. We cannot define domestic terrorists. This is a violation of First Amendment rights. But someone has to bring it to the court. Who would do that, right? And so maybe it's one of these law clients stepping out of bounds and saying, screw them, I don't care. I'm not self-censoring. And then it goes, how do you see that? It really is only the courts that can take this power away right now.
Well, I think there would have to be broad-based opposition on principled grounds to this, not just from the left wing and from the Democrats, but across the country, with the long-term realization that even if you're not being targeted with this now, there's going to be someone else in the White House. And if you look at the, say, federal government's response to January 6th, I don't think that should have been investigated as domestic terrorism. You know, if someone broke a window, if somebody damaged something, sure, charge them with, property destruction or something. But that was treated by the FBI under the Biden administration essentially as terrorism. So that shows you that the other party is willing to do this too. And I think it's very naive to look at this and say they're not going to come in with some kind of a political mandate at the very least to try to do the same thing under pressure from their own supporters. So I think, again, opposition to this has to be principled, or there isn't going to be a meaningful opposition at all. As to your point about the courts, unfortunately, after 9/11, the courts have created an entire legal apparatus to allow, in the news right now is these boat strikes. Well, you know what those remind me of? Those are very much like the targeted assassinations by drones under the Obama administration, which created the legal apparatus for them to go ahead and do that. Now we're seeing a very different politician, Donald Trump, doing something similar to a much different group here in our hemisphere. So I'm very skeptical that the legal approach is going to offer much of the way of a solution to this, because they have had so much time to build this almost Calvin ball doctrine of counterterrorism that I agree with you is completely contrary to the spirit of the Constitution. But unfortunately, these law firms and years of case law have given them a really free hand. And unfortunately, that global war on terror, we're now seeing it come home. There's a focus on the hemisphere now. There's a focus on domestic terrorism. There's a focus on the Western hemisphere, the area around the United States. And that is something that should be debated. And, when you look at Congress talking about, did they violate the rule of law? Did they not? It's kind of like, it's kind of aside from the bigger question of like, should we have this colossus focused at home instead of at these groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda. And there really hasn't been much of a debate. It's focused more on these kind of very complicated legal questions rather than this big picture, I think, doctrinal point about what do we want to do? And is it making us safer? I don't think it is.
Right. And I'm struck by your point that the media has not freaked out about this, that the Trump administration is labeling anti-capitalism as a terrorist. Can we put that list up one more time that I pulled from the document? Because this is all the liberal media's favorite beliefs, anti-ICE,
anti-Christianity,
open borders, anti-Christianity. You would think that they would be afraid of this and freak out about it, given how much they hate the Trump administration. Why would they be silent? And, a lot of these things are things I do not believe, but I am freaking out because I believe that you should be able to believe them. So why are only libertarians freaking out about this? What do you think?
Yeah, so I've worked in the mainstream media for several years before going independent, and I have some insight into the manner of thinking. It's dominated by folks in New York City and in Washington, which isn't necessarily of itself bad, but that, tends to be a certain viewpoint. And that viewpoint tends to be liberal, and they tend to trust the institutions. They tend to like the FBI. They tend to like the Justice Department. And because of that, just based on my personal conversations, I think there's this sense that, this is some crazy directive, but those guys aren't going to implement this because that would just be too crazy. They're going to realize that they shouldn't do this. And yeah, it's like
thinks that the government's going to not exercise power. Okay, that's a good one.
They're like restraining themselves.
At the top of the segment, you made the point that this is what I reported last week was the implementation order of the National Security Presidential Memorandum 7 from a couple of months ago. So I had hoped that I've been banging my drum trying to draw attention to NSPM 7, which really is an assault on American speech.
Yes.
That I don't think we want. I don't think any sensible person wants. And this implementation order, this is basically, if that was the war plan, NSPM 7, this is kind of the tactical plan for here's how you're going to go about doing that thing that Trump signed several months ago. So this, I had hoped, would tell people they're serious about this. It's not just rhetoric. I understand that Trump says things sometimes, and he can be a troll, and he's not always serious about things that he says. But you don't have the Justice Department drafting a memo like this and sending it to every federal agency signed by her, and with specifics about put money into this fund to reward people for tips. Go back retroactively 5 years through your intelligence that you already have and see if you can reopen cases to make terrorism cases. I mean, there are all these specifics in it about how you go about implementing that. This is serious stuff. This is not just rhetoric. I had hoped that they would wake up to that fact, but so far only Reuters has written, is the only major American media institution that's written anything about it. And I think it's because of that kind of reflexive faith in institutions that media tends to have. They tend to believe in the system.
I guess.
Okay.
I guess, Ken, we'll get you out of here on this, which is, has the Trump DOJ, FBI commented to you at all, as you furthered this story?
Only to say that it's authentic, and they themselves posted the document. And I naively thought, oh gosh, well, look, here it is from the horse's mouth. They're saying that what I had was true, because people look at this and they think this is too crazy. This can't be real.
It's too crazy.
And, yeah. And I kind of get that. I'm sympathetic. I understand. I thought it was crazy when I saw it, but now that the Justice Department has come out and verified it, any number of media can now say, not have to worry about the sourcing or anything. Cause I obviously can't get into that because I don't want to get anyone in trouble, but, it's right out there, and you can go and read it, look at it. And unfortunately, it hasn't. I haven't seen a single cable news segment. Haven't seen anything in the New York Times or the Washington Post. It's like a total blackout. Shows like yours have been fantastic about this. Independent media, very interested. When I talk to ordinary people care about this stuff. So it's not like they're just bored by it or anything. But the media just won't talk about it.
So strange. It's so strange. Ken Klippenstein, great to see you so much. Thank you so much for your great work on here. Where can people read your work if they're not familiar with your now that you're independent? Where can people go and follow you?
I run a newsletter at kenklippenstein.org. It's all free. You can just sign up for it and get all the stuff right in your inbox.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Ken, great to see you. Thank you so much for your great work on this.
Thanks, guys. My pleasure.
Thanks, Ken.